24 Soviet soldiers absolutely obliterated the German army for 60 full days, and they did it by turning an ordinary apartment block into the deadliest fortress on the entire Eastern Front. This is their story. In late 1942, Stalingrad was the epicenter of the Second World War. What was once a sprawling industrial center was now a hellscape of twisted metal and shattered concrete, a place where life was measured in meters and minutes. Here, the powerful German Sixth Army had pushed the Soviet 62nd Army to the brink of annihilation, pinning them against the icy Volga River. In a battle where entire regiments could be wiped out in a day, the fight for a single building could decide the fate of thousands, and one of those buildings was about to become a legend. In the heart of this inferno, one building stood defiant. It wasn't a fortress or a command post, but a simple 4-story apartment building. For nearly 2 months, just 24 Soviet soldiers, led by Sergeant Yakov Pavlov, turned this pile of rubble into an unbreakable bastion, like a granite boulder in the path of a flood. They held back an enemy that vastly outnumbered them, pulling off the impossible. Before getting into the true act of valor, our story begins on the Eastern Front. By September 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad devolved into a brutal struggle the Germans called Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. Standard blitzkrieg tactics were useless. The war had shrunk, turning from a battle of armies into 1,000 tiny, vicious duels, fought in the dark, like scorpions fighting in a bottle. Overlooking a central plaza known as 9th January Square stood a 4-story apartment block. It was a civilian building, but its location was tactically perfect. It acted as a battlefield's control tower, allowing whoever held it to fire on German movements for a kilometer in every direction, and, most critically, protect a key crossing on the Volga. For the Germans, taking this building was vital. For the Soviets, holding it was survival. For Pavlov and his men, holding it was heroism at its finest. On September 27th, the order came to retake the building, an important development for our story. The mission fell to a 24-year-old sergeant, Yakov Pavlov. His platoon was shattered, his officers gone. In command by default, Pavlov led his tiny recon unit of just 3 men across the square under the cover of darkness. The assault was lightning fast. They cleared rooms with grenades and submachine guns, driving the Germans out. They had seized their objective, but as dawn broke, the 4 men realized they were alone, deep in enemy territory, overlooking a square the Germans were determined to take. They had captured the building. Now they had to hold it, and every soldier knew Stalin's order, number 227, not one step back. With the river at their backs, retreat wasn't an option. It was like standing on the edge of the world. Stalin's order would soon prove difficult to maintain. Luckily for Pavlov and his men, they had extraordinary courage. For 3 days, Pavlov's 4-man team held the building alone. Then reinforcements arrived, a platoon under Lieutenant Ivan Afanasyev, bringing machine guns, mortars, and anti-tank rifles. The combined garrison transformed the apartment block into a masterpiece of urban defense, a deadly hornet's nest, bristling with stingers at every opening. They surrounded it with 4 layers of barbed wire and dense minefields. They knocked out interior walls to move freely and unseen. They even dug a communication trench back to Soviet lines, a fragile lifeline for supplies that was constantly shelled by artillery. Every window facing the square became a machine gun nest. Their trump card was on the roof, a PTRS-41 anti-tank rifle. Normally ineffective against a Panzer's frontal armor, their 4-story perch gave them a brilliant advantage. It was like a hunter in a tree stand. When German tanks drove within 25 meters, their main guns couldn't elevate high enough to fire back, exposing the thin armor on their turrets, which were as vulnerable as a tortoise flipped on its back. From this position, Pavlov himself is said to have destroyed over a dozen tanks. Life inside Pavlov's house was hell. The Germans attacked relentlessly, sometimes several times a day. Between assaults, snipers and artillery provided constant, harassing fire. The men slept on insulation wool ripped from pipes. Food and water were scarce, supplied through the trench or by boats braving the shelled river. All the while, about 10 terrified civilians huddled in the basement. The psychological toll was immense. During lulls in the fighting, The defenders had to go outside to clear piles of enemy dead from the barbed wire, a gruesome task necessary to maintain lines of sight. Yet this small garrison held. On the battle map of German General Friedrich Paulus, the building was circled and marked with a single word: Festung, fortress. Out of rubble and ruin, Pavlov's men built something indestructible, a story that would outlive the war itself. For 60 days, from late September to late November 1942, the garrison endured. They repelled countless attacks on pure grit, their defense so ferocious the Germans thought they were facing a whole battalion. The stand of these few men tied down significant German forces, preventing them from capturing a critical part of the city. The end didn't come with a final desperate battle. It came on November 19th with the roar of 1,000 guns across the Volga. The Red Army had launched Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive. The siege wasn't broken by a last charge. It was swallowed by a changing tide, as the Soviet counterattack swept around the city and trapped the besiegers themselves. On November 25th, Soviet forces finally reached Pavlov's house, breaking the siege. The exhausted but victorious defenders were relieved. The story of Pavlov's house became a powerful symbol of Soviet resistance. General Vasily Chuikov, commander of the 62nd Army, joked that the Germans lost more men trying to take the house than they did taking Paris. While an exaggeration, it captures the legendary status the building earned. For his leadership, Yakov Pavlov was named a hero of the Soviet Union, the nation's highest honor. After the war, Pavlov's house was one of the first buildings in Stalingrad to be rebuilt. Today, it's a living monument. Attached to its side is a memorial wall made from bricks of the original rubble, a permanent reminder of the men who refused to break, like a scar of honor on the face of the city. Their story proves that history isn't just shaped by massive armies, but by the extraordinary courage of ordinary people. If you want to hear more incredible stories of resilience from history, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what other heroic stands you think we should cover.